Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take stacks of source material, distill them down, really get to the heart of what you need to know.
Yeah.
Today, we are stepping right into Hollywood's take on the American legal system.
That's right.
Our source. It's a great set of excerpts called Top Law Movies of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Covers 13 big films plus one documentary. Spans, what, 1957 right up to 2018.
Yeah, a really wide range. And look, our mission here for you listening isn't just a movie review list. We're not just recounting scenes.
Yeah.
We want to pull out the legal and ethical core. How does Hollywood hook us with these dilemmas? We're going under the surface, you know?
Looking at how these films show things like reasonable doubt, personal integrity.
Systemic corruption, all of it. We want to give you that informed overview fast.
And the scope here is pretty huge. We've got military law, civil rights evolution, corporate ethics, even capital punishment. It's quite the landscape.
It really is. And maybe the key takeaway, even before we dig in, is that these films, they consistently pit the letter of the law against the spirit of justice. That tension.
Exactly. We're looking for those universal struggles, the ones that go beyond the case file and show you the sort of moral heart of the legal world.
Okay, great setup. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
How about we start with those really intense battles, where is one person's integrity against this huge system failing? We're calling this section the battlefield of moral integrity and systemic injustice.
Good place to start. Yeah, these are the stories where the lawyer is almost like a moral lighthouse, fighting for basic human dignity when the system or the community has just completely failed.
And you can't talk about that without starting with To Kill a Mockingbird, 1962. The source puts it right at the top, naturally.
Naturally. I mean, it's the benchmark, isn't it, for legal ethics on screen? The theme, obviously, deep racial injustice in the South.
Yeah.
But the source really zeroes in on Atticus Finch, Gregory Peck, as the symbol of just unwavering moral backbone in a broken system, defending Tom Robinson, black man, false accusation of raping a white woman. And what the source pulls out, which is so striking, is how the film shows that Finch knows it's hopeless, legally hopeless anyway.
Right.
The evidence for Robinson's innocence is there. It's clear.
Yeah.
But the racism is just baked into the community, the jury. The system itself is against him.
Absolutely. So his fight isn't really about winning in court. It's about upholding the principle, standing up for the law itself when society is screaming for injustice.
Yeah.
And the source analysis points out his real challenge wasn't the evidence. It was trying to navigate that incredibly biased jury, trying to appeal to some sense of fairness that just wasn't there. It shows that sometimes a lawyer's job, their duty, is to stand completely alone against everyone, just to honor what the court is supposed to represent.
It's powerful. A tragic benchmark, maybe, but definitely powerful. Okay, so if we follow that civil rights thread, fast forward about 30 years to 1993, the battleground shifts. It's not the criminal court, it's the workplace. We get Philadelphia.
That's a really key pivot, yeah. Andrew Beckett, Tom Hanks, right, sues his own law firm. Wrongful dismissal. Why? Because they found out he had HIV/AIDS.
So we're moving squarely into civil rights law, employment law.
Totally different arena.
And in 93, I mean, the stigma around HIV/AIDS was enormous. The legal system was really just starting to grapple with it.
Right. This wasn't about crime. It was about the right to work, protection against being fired just because your health status, your identity made you, undesirable or marginalized.
And casting Denzel Washington as Joe Miller, the lawyer who starts out kind of prejudiced himself.
Yeah, that shows the societal resistance the law had to push against. And the source brings up a good point here. How fast does the law need to adapt to protect emerging marginalized groups? With employment law, wrongful dismissal had to stretch, had to include medical status, identity. It had to shield people from discrimination based on fear, basically. Philadelphia makes you see that legal equality has to keep evolving.
Keep evolving. Which leads us nicely to 2018. On the basis of sex, the Ruth Bader Ginsburg story, early career.
Yeah, and here the source material really hammers the idea of forging legal precedent.
Yeah.
This isn't like Mockingbird fighting overt hatred. This is a strategic intellectual fight.
Against centuries of baked-in gender inequality.
Exactly. Institutional stuff. The film shows her struggles as a woman in that male-dominated world, sure. But the analysis focuses on her legal arguments, landmark cases.
Right.
The source highlights how she went after specific laws that looked like they protected women but actually limited them professionally, financially.
Smart.
Oh, brilliant strategy. She'd take cases where laws discriminated against men. Why? to prove that any gender-based classification was fundamentally suspect under the Constitution. It wasn't just about winning a case. It was about changing how the courts fundamentally read the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause.
So, quite a journey there. 3 films, 3 stages, Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Individual defiance against raw prejudice in criminal court.
Yep.
Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Fighting for dignity, civil rights, in employment law.
Right.
And on the basis of sex. This systematic intellectual attack on institutional inequality to build new protections.
It shows how that fight for integrity within the law just keeps shifting, keeps adapting to different kinds of systemic problems.
That's a great summary of that section.
Okay.
Okay, so we've seen the moral battles. Now let's get into the nuts and bolts, the machinery of the justice system itself. Criminal law, our next section. Criminal justice, the trial process, and defining doubt.
Okay. Yeah, this is where Hollywood loves to dig into things like burden of proof, defense strategies, ethical lines.
All that good stuff. And really, there's only one place to start this discussion. A film that strips everything else away. Pure constitutional essence. 12 Angry Men, 1957.
Oh, absolutely. Sidney Lumet, probably the best film ever made about the American jury system. The source is right on the money, emphasizing the setting. Almost the entire film, just that jury room.
Claustrophobic.
Intensely focused. Henry Fonda, Juror 8, slowly, painstakingly making the others rethink. Reconsider this quick, easy, guilty verdict against a teenager accused of murder.
And what makes it so powerful is there's no last-minute witness, no surprise evidence from outside. It's all about the deliberation.
Exactly.
It shows how easily prejudice, assumptions, even just wanting to get home for the baseball game can undermine that civic duty.
And the analysis in our source material really highlights how this film just crystallizes reasonable doubt. It's not an inconvenience. It's the bedrock. The film pulls apart certainty. Shows how it crumbles when you actually scrutinize subjective testimony, faulty memory, inconsistencies.
It's a lesson, isn't it? The system isn't necessarily about finding the absolute capital T truth. Maybe that's impossible sometimes.
Right.
It's about ensuring the state meets this incredibly high bar before it takes away someone's liberty or life. The sheer weight on those 12 ordinary people and the power of one voice saying, wait a minute.
That makes that responsibility feel real. Tangible. Okay, so if 12 Angry Men is about the jury's internal responsibility,
Right.
what about the lawyers, the defense?
Right.
Let's look at a couple of really different takes here. My Cousin Vinny, 1992.
Chuckles. Right.
And The Lincoln Lawyer, 2011.
Talk about polar opposites. My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
People think comedy, but trial lawyers love it, right? The source notes its surprising accuracy on procedure, evidence.
Yeah, despite the humor, Joe Pesci's Vinny Gambini seems like a fish out of water, inexperienced. But beneath the surface, he's sharp, meticulous about facts. The humor comes from the culture clash, the court not taking him seriously because of how he looks, how he talks, but they can't dismiss his logic. His focus on the hard evidence, the tire tracks.
The grits.
The grits, exactly. It shows that good defense isn't always flashy cross-examinations. Sometimes it's about those tiny details that just demolish the prosecution's story. His kind of straightforward focus on what actually happened wins out.
Because his clients were in it.
This is right. Now, contrast that clarity, innocent client's factual defense with Mickey Halley in The Lincoln Lawyer, Matthew McConaughey.
Operating out of his car.
Yeah, and his world is shades of gray, lots of gray. Legal maneuvering, plea bargains, sometimes outright manipulation.
His clients aren't usually the innocent underdogs.
Not typically. The source really points to the ethical tightrope holler walks, and the tension skyrockets when he realizes his current client isn't just guilty, he's dangerous. Really dangerous.
Okay, so it's not just about getting someone off.
No, it becomes this deep ethical bind. He's stuck with attorney-client privilege. He knows things he can't reveal, even if people are in danger.
So he has to work within the rules.
Exactly. Within those strict ethical rules, he has to somehow protect himself, maybe protect others, and undermine his own client without actually breaking privilege. It shows how the very rules designed to protect the accused can sometimes shield the guilty.
That's a fascinating contrast, which sets us up perfectly for institutional ethics, doesn't it? Let's raise the stakes. Enter the military. A Few Good Men, 1992.
Classic. And a perfect example of ethics under command. Tom Cruise, Elton Caffey, defending 2 Marines accused of murder during a code red.
A hazing incident gone wrong.
Right. And he goes head-to-head with Colonel Jessup, Jack Nicholson, who basically embodies the rigid, self-protective military structure.
You can't handle the truth.
The line, right.
Yeah.
But it sums up his whole argument. It's not just about truth versus lies. It's loyalty versus legal accountability. Jessup argues his actions, maybe questionable to outsiders, are necessary for national security.
That defense,
Yeah.
we need people like me doing questionable things so you can sleep at night.
Yeah. And legally, the source emphasizes military law is different. Duty, obedience, they carry immense weight. So the question becomes, were the Marines following a justifiable order? Or was the code red itself an illegal command?
Where does individual responsibility stop and the institutions begin, especially in that kind of hierarchy?
It's like a modern take on the Nuremberg defense, almost. A really compelling look at those boundaries.
Okay, so we've done jury rooms, defense strategies, military courts. To round out criminal justice, we need to look at the ultimate consequence. We shift gears here. A documentary. Into the Abyss, 2011.
Yeah, this one's important. It's Werner Herzog. And it moves us from legal maneuvering to the stark reality of the death penalty.
No Hollywood ending here.
None. Herzog looks at a triple homicide in Texas, talks to the convicted killers on death row, talks to the victims' families. He really explores the moral and human implications of capital punishment.
So it provides this grounding, this real-world counterpoint to all the courtroom drama. It's not about the verdict moment. It's about what happens after, the long shadow of punishment.
Right. It forces you, the listener, to confront the finality, the sheer gravity of the state having the power over life and death. It makes those abstract ideas, justice, retribution, incredibly concrete and human, often in a way that fictional films, aiming for closure, just can't.
That definitely grounds the discussion. And it leads us actually quite smoothly into our next big area. When the system itself is flawed, when powerful institutions break the rules, the system is on trial. Corruption and corporate accountability.
Yeah, here the lawyer isn't defending an individual against the system. They're often attacking the system or a powerful part of it. A corrupt firm, a negligent corporation, even a crooked judge.
Let's start with a real gut punch film from 1979.
Yeah.
And Justice for All. Al Pacino as Arthur Kirkland. A decent lawyer just drowning in a corrupt system.
Oh, this film is just pure agony, ethically speaking. The source highlights it as this exploration of internal moral conflict. Kirkland is principled, right?
Yeah.
But he's forced, legally and ethically, to defend a judge he absolutely despises, a judge accused of rape. That's attorney-client privilege biting back, hard.
It's brutal. Pacino's character is trapped. His professional duty says give the best defense. But his conscience, his knowledge of the judge, screams otherwise. He knows the guy represents the rot to the very top of the institution he's part of.
And he's fighting a system that wants to protect its own while being forced to shield one of its worst elements. It makes you ask, can your personal ethics even survive that? When the rules themselves force you into a position you find morally repugnant?
Suggests corruption isn't just outside the courts. It can infect the very processes meant to deliver justice.
Precisely. By rigidly sticking to the rules sometimes.
Okay, let's stick with that theme of redemption, but maybe in a slightly different context. The Verdict, 1982, another Sidney Lumet film.
Yes, Paul Newman as Frank Galvin. Alcoholic lawyer, washed up, gets this medical malpractice case that looks like a loser.
And the key moment, which the source focuses on, is him turning down a big settlement offer.
Huge moment. That's the pivot. The analysis points to this as litigation strategy versus moral imperative. Taking the settlement, easy money, safe, a professional win.
Flings of his life, maybe.
Right, but he refuses. He chooses to fight for actual justice for his client, even though it means going up against a powerful hospital, powerful lawyers, and facing his own demons. It turns it from just another case into this moral quest.
It shows that sometimes finding the truth means risking absolutely everything, especially when you're up against big institutions.
And having Lumet direct this and 12 Angry Men, it really shows his obsession, doesn't it? With individuals trying to find moral clarity inside these cynical, broken systems.
Definitely a pattern. Okay, from medical malpractice, let's scale up. Big-time corporate law.
Yeah.
The Firm, 1993.
Right. Corruption on a massive scale here. Tom Cruise again, Mitch McDeere, hotshot Harvard law grad, gets lured into this super prestigious, super wealthy firm.
Seems like the dream job.
Until he finds out they're basically a front for the mob. Money laundering, conspiracy, murder, the works. The source flags the themes, corporate law ethics, and the massive danger of whistleblowing.
This is different, isn't it? The lawyers aren't just defending criminals. The law firm is the criminal enterprise.
Exactly. Legal skills being used to facilitate huge crimes. Mitch gets squeezed. Expose the firm to the FBI, risk his life, his career. Or just keep quiet, get rich, become part of it.
The firm really shows how complex legal structures, that corporate veil,
Yeah.
can be used to hide enormous wrongdoing.
Yeah, it details the mechanics, how lawyers who are supposed to uphold the law can become the key enablers. It's the institution itself on trial.
Okay, so that's corruption from the top down within the legal corporate structure. What about fighting it from the outside, from the bottom up? Perfect segue to Erin Brockovich, 2000.
Oh, fantastic example. A real case study in corporate accountability driven by class action. Julia Roberts is Erin Brockovich, no law degree, unemployed single mom.
Stumbles onto this massive environmental poisoning case, PG&E, chromium in the water supply in Hinckley, California.
And the film's power is that underdog dynamic. How does someone with basically no resources take on a giant utility corporation? The answer, highlighted in the source, is the class action lawsuit. It's a vital tool. It lets lots of people who've been harmed pool their claims, their resources.
Levels the playing field a bit.
A lot, especially in environmental cases or toxic torts. For one person to prove harm against a huge company, almost impossible. The class action gives the little guys collective power to demand accountability, force corporations to think about public health, not just profit.
And it shows change driven not by some legal genius, but by sheer persistence, empathy, connecting with the victims.
Absolutely. Tenacity and truth-telling.
Okay, that covers a lot of ground on systemic failures. It brings us to our last major section, but maybe the most fundamental. The bedrock. Constitutional cornerstones and the First Amendment.
Crucial stuff, because the films we've talked about mostly deal with specific laws, criminal, civil, whatever. This is about the rights that underpin everything, the citizen versus the state.
And the film here is The People versus Larry Flynt, 1996. The story of the Hustler magazine publisher. Very controversial.
Very. And the source pinpoints the core conflict. It's a deep dive into freedom of speech, censorship, media law, First Amendment territory. It all builds towards that landmark Supreme Court case, Hustler Magazine v. Falwell.
Where Flynt won, unanimous.
Right. And it's the ultimate test case because Flynt's magazine wasn't just unpopular, it was offensive, shocking, crude to many people.
Absolutely.
The case revolved around this parody ad mocking Jerry Falwell, a major religious figure, alleging things like incest, drunkenness, pretty vile stuff.
So Falwell sued. Libel, intentional infliction of emotional distress.
And the jury actually found for Falwell on emotional distress, but the Supreme Court overturned it. And the source emphasizes why this ruling was so critical. The court said, essentially, that public figures can't sue for emotional distress caused by satire or parody, no matter how outrageous, unless it contains a false statement of fact made with actual malice, defamation.
So it drew a line. Satire, even nasty satire, is protected.
It had to. The film makes the argument, if the First Amendment means anything, it has to protect speech we despise. If you let the government or courts shut down unpopular views just because they're offensive, well, freedom of speech isn't a right anymore, it's just a popularity contest.
Yeah, it becomes subjective.
Exactly. So the case and the film stand for protecting the principle of expression itself for everyone, especially for those who push boundaries. It's not about liking Larry Flynt, it's about protecting the foundation.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a lot of legal ground in this deep dive. Military justice in A Few Good Men, environmental law in Erin Brockovich,
Civil rights evolution from Mockingbird through On the Basis of Sex.
corporate crime in the firm, the trial process in 12 Angry Men and Vinny.
Constitutional rights in Larry Flynt.
It's a huge spectrum.
It really is. But the source material suggests this underlying consistency, doesn't it? Hollywood keeps using the courtroom, the legal drama, as this testing ground for American ideals, always showing that clash between the ideal of justice and the often messy, flawed reality.
So the final takeaway for you, the listener, is that these movies, even with all the Hollywood gloss, they keep coming back to the same core struggles.
Yeah.
Truth versus duty, conscience versus corruption, justice versus prejudice. They hold up a mirror, reflecting our own toughest ethical questions.
They show you not just the rules of law, but what it feels like to be caught up in it, to fight within it, maybe even fail within it. That's the drama that sticks with us.
Right. And just to leave you with something to chew on, a final provocative thought.
Yeah.
Think about those patterns we noticed in the source material. 2 films by Sidney Lumet, 12 Angry Men, The Verdict. A director known for moral ambiguity, institutional failure.
And 2 starring Tom Cruise. A Few Good Men, The Firm. An actor often playing ambitious young guys facing these huge ethical tests within powerful systems.
What does that recurrence tell us? Directors obsessed with moral fragility, stars embodying that pressure point where ambition meets ethics.
Maybe it suggests what legal questions really hit home for audiences again and again. Maybe it speaks to this ongoing anxiety we have about systems failing us, and perhaps that enduring hope that maybe, just maybe, one person can still stand up and make a difference.
Something to think about next time you settle in for a classic courtroom drama.